Hey everyone, in this video here I just wanted to talk about some of the WordPress plugins that are not recommended to use on a WordPress site. Now for this I'm just taking my cues from WP Engine, which for the most part wants to create a secure WordPress environment for its users, and a robust environment, a fast environment, and one that scales. So with that said, it makes sense to me that their list of disallowed plugins should be on the list of disallowed plugins for any site that I create, and perhaps for any site that you create as well using WordPress. Now some of these plugins, the only reason they're disallowed is because they'd be redundant. WP Engine, for example, has caching built in already, which is the only reason why these three plugins are disallowed on their server. It's just redundant. They wouldn't be necessary, and that's pretty much the same reason for backup plugins. Although a lot of the backup plugins they say are ridiculously insecure, and they use up a ton of disk space. So as long as you're not storing the backups in the local file system, maybe it's okay. I mean, if a backup generates once a week or something like that and sends you an email with it, that might be okay. But there's different concerns for backup plugins, so they're worth looking into. But these are the ones not recommended for WP Engine, and again, it's mostly because it'd be redundant, because they have just like caching, they have backup in place already on their servers. They do recommend and permit Wordpress though, so we'll take a look at that in another video. And these ones here, they say they write to the database way too much, and it just bogs down the server in a lot of cases. Broken link checker, I can account for that. I use that on one of my sites, and it just there's a lot going on with it. It was handy, but there's other ways to look for that, as I'll talk about in a minute. It suggests here that there's an inordinate amount of HTTP requests with the broken link checker plugin, so that's one to be avoided. I've been recommended the WP Smush.it plugin to people recently, and I wouldn't use it for the bulk image processing. I would actually just upload it to the Smush.it website for that. But I think that when you add a new image to a post in the media library, Smush does a good job of compressing that image and making it stay the same in terms of quality, and it's just used during that instant. It's not like something that has to be continuously done. I wouldn't say no to the Smush plugin. I would say no to using it for bulk processing, and again, I would just go to the Smush.it website for that. But I think it is a great idea to compress and optimize your images on the fly like that as you're uploading them, as you're adding them to posts and pages. So I would still personally say that this is a good plugin to use. I've never used this plugin, but apparently my review plugin slams the database with a fairly significant amount of writes, so it's to be avoided. And Linkman is similar to that. I've never used Linkman, but again, apparently it's not something to use. The Google XML sitemaps, I just did a video for that. There's a better one that's recommended, and that's called the Better WordPress Google XML Sitemaps plugin. So avoid this one. This is one I've used. This is like one of the default plugins that I've installed on my server until today. All my WordPress sites have always put this on, but now I'm using the better one. And then in fact it is better. It uses indexing, and then you submit that index file, and all your sitemaps that you have for your site are put into that file. And it's got support for multi-site, the better one, and it's got support for larger websites as well, and news sitemaps as well. You can turn on news sitemaps, and that's another sitemap that will be indexed in the sitemap index file. This one here, I've never even heard of it. It causes MySQL issues as the site becomes more popular, so avoid fuzzy SEO booster according to WP Engine. And WP Post Views is inefficient. It writes to the database on every single page load. I use statistics tool with the Jetpack plugin, and that's recommended here by WP Engine, and then there's also, of course, Google Analytics. Tweet Blender, I've never heard of it, but it sounds like it's just a problem with their caching layer, so this might not necessarily be a problem plugin either. And related post plugins, there's a lot of access to the database with these plugins. That's always been the case. So that you can offload that. They recommend use third-party websites that'll just you can put a script right into the section where you want related posts to show up, and it'll use processing on a different server. And Relate is the only one. Actually, Link Within as well is the only two that I've heard of out of all these 5. And I think with Relate you can actually generate an income with it too. Some of your related posts might be promoted posts from other websites. I believe that's how it works. It's worth looking into. Relate's very popular. I see it on a lot of popular websites and blogs. Relate. And broken link checker alternatives. There's third-party. There's off-site solutions, just like there is for related posts. There's off-site solutions like brokenlinkcheck.com, or you can download software. There's a program for Windows and a program for the Mac that you can download, and it'll keep an eye on your site for broken links. I do like the broken link checker plugin though. I mean the functionality of it. I hate that it slows everything down, but it does a great job of telling you, okay, you have links within your posts that link out to other sites that are broken, and also it'll tell you if there's sites linking to you, and those pages or posts don't exist on your website anymore. I really like the idea of it. I'm gonna definitely look into these ones though and see what features they have. These aren't necessarily bad or plugins that you don't want to use, but they'd be redundant in this case. HTTPS plugin, I use that on some sites. No revisions, WP misschedule. These two here, they actually WP Engine installs for you and activates. So clearly, these are the type of plugins that would be a good idea to use. Limit login attempts. So that way, if some bot is trying to log into your website, you can say, like, if they fail 3 times in a row, block that IP address for a little while. And then, of course, 4 strong passwords is a good idea to keep your site secure as well. And WP mailing lists, I've used that before, but I agree completely that just because you can send emails from within WordPress doesn't mean that you should. That's what MailChimp, Constant Contact, Aweber, and the like are used for. You can send, and they're set up to send bulk email and double opt-in, and they have the anti-spam policies in place, and they enforce that. So I think it's a great idea to use a third-party client to send email. Even if you have members in the membership site, they can be, if the membership plugin supports, as it should, support the ability to auto-add to mailing lists or like newsletters, then use that feature and do that instead of emailing from within WordPress. Apparently WP PHP MyAdmin has a fairly major security issue. I've never used it. I always just go into the server and gain access to PHP MyAdmin. Almost all servers will give you that access, so it's really not a concern. So I don't know if this plugin's ever even really needed anymore. And here's a complete list of plugins that WP Engine disallows, and a lot of times it's for security reasons. A lot of times it's because it slows things down. A lot of times it may be because they're just redundant for WP Engine, so that doesn't necessarily mean they're bad for your server. So here's the quick list here. But we went over the main ones in the up here. So I think common ones that are used, some broken link broken link checker alternatives we should look into, some related post alternatives we should look into, and stop using the Google XML sitemaps. Again, I still recommend the use of that, except for the bulk feature. And maybe Wordpress is something to look into as well. Alright, that's all for this video. Thanks a lot for watching.